But before the sunset of her 16th birthday, she will prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel, and she will fall into a sleep like death. Welcome to my channel. I'm Todd, and this is Toddfoolery's Retro Rewind Throwback Review. It's a working title, and this video is about the series premiere of Once Upon a Time. It'll be a recap along with some analysis, and yeah, it's gonna be some spoilers. But before we get started, thank you for watching. Although this video is specifically covering episode 1, I'll be reviewing the entire series with each season in two-part chunks. So for example, I'll cover season whatever, episodes 1 through 11 in one video, then same season whatever, episodes 12 through 22 in another. One part because doing each episode would literally take forever, and the other part because Once Upon a Time typically had 2 main villains per season, so it's actually an easy way to break it up. So if you want to follow along as our review shows about mystery, murder, and suspense, old and new, hit subscribe and that thumbs up to see more videos like this one. With all the official business out of the way, let's talk about Once Upon a Time. Now, I chose this show because it showed up on the list of shows I got from all of you, and because I remember the show being such a big deal when it came out. Now, it premiered in 2011. It was one of the first live action shows that took all the Disney fairy tales and weave them together in one highly creative and well-written show. I actually remember hearing about the show and was thinking it was going to be the stupid cheesy show about princesses and princes and blah blah blah. And although it is cheesy, like so much cheese, it's in a good way. And this show just has this magic to it. Pun intended. But on top of that, it expertly stitches the stories from tons of Disney fairy tales and makes it work while still catering to an adult audience, and that's why I think it landed so well. Now, the creators Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz, and I hope I pronounced that right, who actually just released a new show called Amazing Stories on Apple TV Plus, or whatever that new streaming service is called, not only tapped into the Disney properties, but they hit us with an overdose of nostalgia each episode, and it's actually genius. Like anticipating how they're gonna tie a new character story into the mix, the romance, the drama, the villains. And it came out right as all the live action Disney remakes were happening, and you had Marvel building this entire cinematic universe. So it was just like perfect timing. Once Upon a Time was basically like a Disney fairy tale crossover, and got a spin-off, which kind of sucked, but I guess I'll have to cover it at some point. But the point is, the show was pretty epic, but does it withstand the test of time? So let's find out and dive into the pilot episode. So we open up on the enchanted forest, and Prince Charming is dashing somewhere with haste. Charming is played by Josh Dallas, who you may have seen in Thor, but just the first Thor, because then he was replaced in the sequel because of conflict of schedule with Once Upon a Time, which I don't blame him. And he's also on a show called Manifest. Anyway, he's dashing towards Snow White, who has a sleep curse put on her. Go figure. And is surrounded by her 7 dwarves. Snow is played by Ginnifer with a G, Goodwin, and you may remember her from Walk the Line and Why Women Kill, which I kind of like the title, might have to cover it for the channel. Okay, so Charming wants to say goodbye, and we're introduced to true love's kiss, folks. So then we cut to a wedding. Their wedding. And it's being crashed! By who, you ask? Well, the one and only Evil Queen. Now, she's played by Lana Parrilla, who you may know from Miami Medical and Swingtown. Never heard of him? Yeah, me either. And it's a shame because she's one of my favorite actresses on the show. Fun fact, she's one of the 2 characters that appeared in every episode of the show, and I'll tell you who the other one is later. Anyway, the Evil Queen barges in and threatens everyone because why not? She's evil. It's literally in her name. And one thing I forgot about here is the way that they talked in the Enchanted Forest. It's so proper, and I really don't remember it being this distracting, and I really hope it goes away later on in the series. So this scene turns into a storybook, and we're introduced to Henry, who's on his own looking for his birth mother. Henry's played by Gilmore, and he really hasn't been up to much since the show. I think he did a voice in a video game or something. We now meet Miss Emma Swan, and she's played by Ginnifer with a J, Morrison, and you may know her from This Is Us and How I Met Your Mother. Anyway, she's on a internet date, which they make seem so weird for back then, and we get an easy way to provide some character background. So Emma is single, orphaned, no friends, a bail bonds person, and she's a badass. We see this because her internet date is actually someone she's come to collect from. By the way, it's Emma's birthday, and while she's making a wish and blowing out the single candle on her birthday cupcake, Henry shows up at her doorstep, and then it hit me. Henry was an annoying character, wasn't he? My memory got triggered in this scene, so reviewing this series is gonna be fun. Apparently, he was given up for adoption 10 years ago and Emma was his mom. What's really cool about this scene though is we're introduced to Emma's superpower. She claims she can sense if people are lying, and this comes back later in the season and the series. And I just love how it's planted here in the first episode. From there, Emma realizes that she needs to take Henry home to Storybrooke. Get it? So we're back in the Enchanted Forest and Charming and Snow are expecting, but they're worried because of the evil queen's curse, so they decide to go to him for protection. Who's him? Well, it's Rumpelstiltskin, and he's played wonderfully by Robert Carlyle, and you may know him from 28 Days Later or The Full Monty. He's also currently on a show called Cobra, and he's actually the other actor that's appeared in every episode of the series. So, fun fact. So this is where we get the magic always comes with a price trope that continues along through the entirety of the show. In exchange for their unborn child's name, Rumpel will give Snow and Charming details about the curse. Apparently, it will be a prison where time stands still and there's no happy endings. Gasp! But there's a prophecy. There's always a prophecy. That their baby will save them on her 28th birthday. She will be the savior. And then there's gonna be a final showdown. So Charming and Snow got to get the hell out of there so they can prepare for the curse. But before they go, Snow gives Rumpel the name of their unborn child, and it's Emma. Didn't see that coming. So Emma and Henry get to Storybrooke. We're introduced to Dr. Archie Hopper, aka Jiminy Cricket, with a Dalmatian, and we find out Henry is the mayor's kid. And you'll never guess who the mayor is. First though, Charming and Snow plan, and a blue fairy shows up with knowledge of a magical tree that can protect from all curses, and there's just a thing for everything, isn't there? By the way, yes, it's 2011, and yes, it's a TV show, but this CGI, it's pretty trash. Like, look at this. This is clearly a soundstage surrounded with green screen. I'll tell you one thing, that does not hold up very well. Anyway, turns out the mayor is the evil queen. Shocker! But her Storybrooke name is Regina. This is gonna happen a lot and has the potential to get confusing, so I decided to only refer to the characters as their fairy tale name, but I'll introduce their Storybrooke name for the first time, except for Regina, because later on in the show, that's revealed to be her real name, so I'm gonna keep calling her Regina. Back to the actual show, the evil queen, I just said I was gonna call her Regina. Anyway, Regina invites Emma into her damn mansion, and then they talk. It's basically like a I'm Henry's mom now, and it was a closed adoption type conversation, and Emma leaves, making Henry hella bummed. So on her way out of Storybrooke, Emma sees the storybook, and this is gonna get confusing, but Henry left it in her car, and she gets into a car accident because she sees a wolf in the middle of the road, and remember that wolf. Anyway, in the Enchanted Forest, Geppetto was making the magic tree protection thingy, and it only fit one person, so Snow and Charming gotta deal with that now. And not gonna lie, again, the acting in the Enchanted Forest is just so over the top and melodramatic. I know it's probably what they were going for, but looking back at it now, it was a little obnoxious at the beginning. Okay, so it looks like baby Emma is coming, and at the exact same time, a super big and dark curse cloud comes barreling toward the castle. And that CGI kingdom, man. Wow. So after the car accident, Emma wakes up in jail for some reason. And is that cop Christian Grey? Yeah, so apparently he plays a guy named Graham. I don't remember exactly who he is, but I know he's up to no good, so we're gonna keep our eye on 50 Shades of Grey over there. Anyway, Henry's missing again, so Emma, Regina, and Graham, the cop, team up to find him. In the process, Emma hacks into Henry's email, which, okay, 2011. And then they find out Henry used a credit card to look up information that located Emma as his birth mother. And that credit card belongs to someone named Mary Margaret, which is just the strangest name to give a character on a TV show. Anyway, she's an elementary school teacher and just the sweetest little thing. Just look at that. Look at her and that cute little bird. And you guessed it, it's Snow White. So Regina and Emma show up, and it's confirmed that Henry indeed did steal the credit card from Mary Margaret. Regina's pissed because Snow planted that find your birth mother idea in his head, so she storms out, which leaves Emma to talk to her mother. But because neither of them know this, they just talk about Henry. Now, in the Enchanted Forest, Snow is in labor and the evil queen's a-coming with a cloud of smoke. But Snow gives birth, so Charming quickly takes the baby, his sword, and then darts out of the room to the magic tree. On the way, Charming gets into this sword fight with a couple of Regina's knights, and this is the show being adult and edgy for 2011. Still though, I was surprised to see blood and cuts. It was actually quite violent, and I love it. So Charming gets the baby in the tree, just in time, of course, but he's stabbed. Now, back in Storybrooke though, Emma finds Henry. He tries to convince her the storybook is real, and I forgot to mention, he's been doing this the whole time, but she still doesn't believe it. In fact, who would? Just crazy kid! Back in the Enchanted Forest, Snow finds a stabbed Charming, and then Regina shows up to gloat. A little over the top acting here, but again, she's an evil queen. She gets to do that. But Snow gets some gloats in too. The baby made it, so she'll be back to kick your butt, Regina. So Emma returns Henry to Regina, and Regina gets all like crazy mean, like, you don't get to call him son, get out of our life, and demands she leave town. Spoiler alert, she doesn't. But Regina does find Henry's storybook, and it's called Once Upon a Time. Get it? I forgot to mention, Charming is some random dude in the hospital that Snow White goes to visit just because she's nice. Anyway, Emma checks into Granny's bed and breakfast, where we meet Granny, Goth Light, Little Red Riding Hood, and Mr. Gold, aka Rumpelstiltskin. Now, Rumpel's ears perk up a bit when he hears Emma's name, but does he remember? We don't know yet, but turns out he owns the whole damn town. So Emma decides to stay for a week, and I didn't mention this before, but there's a big clock tower in the middle of the town that hasn't ever moved. That is until Emma checks into her bed and breakfast, cause the clock tower ticks and Henry is happy as a billy goat on Sunday. And that was a pilot episode of Once Upon a Time. So how did it hold up? Well, despite the over-the-top theatrical acting while in the Enchanted Forest and the obvious green screen, I thought it held up pretty well. The story is still captivating, and although I know the general beats the series takes, I'm still excited to see how it all unfolds. I also love that it's female-led. The show is really setting up this rivalry between Emma and Regina. Like, even Snow seems to be more of a main character than Charming. And I like that, especially because Emma is supposed to be the savior. Now, that being said, the show is lacking some major taste of diversity, and I know it gets better as the show goes on, but this first episode wasn't very colorful, and that's a little disappointing. Other than that though, I thought it was a great pilot. Like I said, they really came up with a really great idea at the right time. What did you think about Once Upon a Time? Did you rewatch the pilot episode? Have you seen it before? You probably should, especially if you're gonna follow along with me on this series. And it's actually a good show, especially if you like Disney. Anyway, comment down below with your thoughts. So the next video is gonna cover episodes 2 through 11 whenever I finish watching them. In the meantime, feel free to check out some of my other videos here. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, it really helps me out. Then subscribe with a side notification bell. Until next time, I'm out of breath, but shine on, you crazy diamonds.